Hi, and welcome to my three-part brush series. We are going to be covering Seint brushes, which are brushes that are made for cream makeup on day one and then day two. And then on the third day, I'll be sharing some of our eye shadow brushes, brow brushes, kind of miscellaneous brushes. What I want to talk about first is how important brushes are, and especially how important it is to get brushes that are made to work with the makeup that you're using. So if you are using liquid makeup, make sure you use a brush that is recommended or from the company of the liquid makeup you have. Same with powders. With cream makeup, it's important that you're using brushes that are made for cream makeup. And these brushes for the Seint cream makeup, they're all double-ended and they are made to work with the cream. And that's what's so important. So you'll really be much happier with your application and your results if you're using the correct brushes, okay? So this is part one, and in part one, we're gonna be talking about three different brushes. These are face brushes. The first one we're gonna talk about is the 3D brush, okay? So this is a double-ended brush. It is, all of the brushes are double-ended, and this is the first one we're gonna do. Let me just show them all to you first. The second one is called the detail brush, very unique brush with this kind of squared off end and a smaller kind of little fluffy end for more detail work. And the third one is also very unique. This one's called the buff brush. It is a very dense brush, very densely packed bristles, and again, double-sided. So these are the three brushes I'm gonna cover today, and let's just go ahead and jump in and get started. So let me take my glasses off. If you are joining, please say hi. Let me know where you're watching from. It's always so fun to do that. I will be live here in the chat. So as we are doing the live, as I'm doing the live right now and applying it and prepping the tutorial, I will actually be live chatting with you. So if you have questions as I go along, please ask me and I'll be able to answer you live and help along the way. All right, so let's get started. The first brush we're going to do is the 3D brush, because so many Seint users, and by the way, Seint is a brand of makeup, a cream-based makeup, and that's what I will be teaching and using. This is the makeup that I use, and it is cream highlighting, contours, cream lip and cheeks, cream bronzer, those kind of things. So that's what we're going to be doing today. The 3D brush is more of a medium to full coverage brush. Why I wanted to talk about this brush first is because a lot of times this is the brush that a lot of gals start out with when they only want to get one brush. I always say it's not my favorite combination of brushes. My favorite combination is the blush and bronzer brush with the detail brush, but the other would be this brush with the detail brush. And if you can only start with one brush, then we're going to start with this one, and I'm going to teach you how to do that, okay? So like I said, this is a medium to full coverage. So this end here is, it's not packed really tight, but it is pretty dense. All of the little, I'm going to call them bristles, are packed in here pretty densely. It kind of has a little bit of a dome shape, so it comes out and then has a dome, so it's a little bit higher at the top. Then this end here is an odd end. It's not an end, so I'm going to show you how to use this end and how to not use it, because it's really important. This is a dense brush. It looks like a big, huge paintbrush, right? It's important that we don't use this brush like a paintbrush. We're not going to be swiping it on, especially if you are like me and a mature skin person, a mature woman who, so I don't want you using it that way. But let's show you how you can use this to do your full face. Okay, so let's start first about talking about contouring our cheeks. So I will start on one side. So to contour with this brush, we are going to use this end, the fluffier end. I'm going to call this one the round end, and we'll call this one the pointy end. So we're going to use the rounded end. So the best way to do this is you can actually, we don't want to use it flat on like this, because that's a really big swipe, right? We never want to swipe it, and we wouldn't even want to pounce it on flat on, because that's a pretty big strip of contour that a lot of us really don't want to apply. When we're applying contour, we want to start, depending on your face shape, but you kind of want to apply it right where your cheekbone ends. So my cheekbone is way up here, okay? And underneath it is right here. So technically, I would want to put my contour, so here it's cupped up underneath my cheekbone. I would want to put my contour right above that, but I wouldn't want to put a huge strip like that. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to either pinch this brush to make it more narrow to put it on, or we can side load it. So let me show you how to do that. So keeping in reference that this is where my cheekbone is, this is kind of where I'm going to be placing it. Let's go ahead and load the brush. So to load the brush, you can either, like I said, you can either pinch it and then come in at an angle into your cream makeup, your cream contour, and just try to just kind of tap just one side of it. So you're really not getting the, as you can see, not the full brush, but mostly just this side of it here. So we're just coming in and we're tapping that on. So then when you come over here to do, I have to sometimes I have to turn it this way, just however is comfortable to you, because I'm going to pinch it a bit. So you don't have to hold this up, but I want to show you the reference. So right here, so this is where, starting with just this ledge, this tip, not the ledge, but the tip of it, it's actually going to be tapped on. I'm not going to swipe. I'm going to kind of tap and press. So there I'm getting just a very nice thin line of my contour. It's kind of hard to see. Remember that contour is, it's harder on purpose. So if you have to, you may really need to pounce it in to get to load it up. That's nothing wrong with your contour. That's just really how it's made. So I can pinch this and I can just tap that right. I can feel my cheekbone right there. So once you have it about where you want it, and whether you're scooping it up at the end or just coming down, I like to stop about the outside of my eye, so I'm pretty good there. Then what you can do with this brush is, since it's all loaded just on this side, okay, I can switch over to this side where there's not really any contour, and I can come in and I can just start to flick or tap, but we want to just kind of flick and tap that up. So I'm blending that contour up. I'm not using the end that had on it, but I'm just using the brush to just kind of blend and diffuse that so it's not too dark. So there we go. Okay, so that's how you can use contour with the 3D brush on your cheeks. You can either pinch it, and then if you get in the habit of side loading your contour brushes so that you're just getting the majority of it on one edge, it's really nice. So now we're going to kind of just fluff it out, and now we're going to do our forehead. With our forehead, same kind of thing. You can just go straight in, because usually on our forehead it can be that wide if we want. You can pinch it as well if you want to really press it in and get more pigment on there. But I'm just going to take the brush, and again, I'm pouncing straight down. In the contour, you can be more firmer with your pouncing, okay, to load the brush, because contour is drier on purpose. And then I'm going to come up and I'm going to press it up here where I would place contour. Then what you can do with the brush when you're done is you can take and flick it towards your hair. Flick it up towards your hair. And I'm just doing these little tiny flicking, or you can just continue to pounce and stipple. And then same thing where it meets down here, you can just take and flick that down. So there we go. Now we've got a nice blended contour. It's not too dark, but you could build up coverage if you wanted to. All right, so contour underneath our jawline. You're going to use that same side. Pounce in, again, being a little bit firmer so you can load it up. If you need to squeeze it because you want more pigment, then squeeze it to make it more dense. And then I'm just going to come down here and just kind of little tiny brush strokes. I'm just kind of brushing it along there, along my jawline, and then I can take the brush and blend it down and back. So on our jawline, we want to always blend the contour down and back behind our ear. And you can actually go even farther behind your ear if you want to add a bit more. You know, put some more contour back behind that ear, down your neck, especially if your hair is a little bit shorter. Okay, so then that is your contour on your cheekbone or jawline. So we did contour, forehead, cheekbone, jawline with the 3D brush, and we used this end. Okay, all right, and as you can see, there's makeup on here, but this makeup, it's fine. It's not, because it's a cream brush, it's made to work with this makeup. So when we go to use it elsewhere, it's not going to transfer, and it's not going to muddy up into the different colors because it's a cream makeup brush. That's what's so important. I want to get that out to you. All right, so let's now talk about our camouflage or color corrector shade. So that would be this shade here. This shade I will use to like color, I've already kind of color corrected my eyelids. We're either going to use this side of the brush for larger areas. Okay, so, and then this side of the brush for smaller areas, or our finger for smaller areas. So what do I mean by that? So the color corrector shade here, I'm going to look at my face, and you will do the same. And let's go ahead and start from the top down and look and decide, where do I need to color correct, or maybe I need a little extra camouflaging or extra concealing. And by concealing, I mean using a warmer, darker shade that actually conceals without having to layer a ton of product. So that's why I use a shade and recommend a camouflage shade to do that. So let's start with our eyelids. So for me, I like to use my finger. If I only have this brush, I'm going to just pick up my camouflage shade with my finger, lightly tap in, and then I'm going to lightly start tapping it on my eyelids, because my eyelids, and a lot of us, can be very purpley. They can be brown. They can be full of our veins. They tend to thin. So tapping it on with my finger seems to work the best. I could use this brush, but this end of it, but you just have to be careful, because you don't want to poke your eye. But putting that on. Now underneath my eye, same kind of thing. If I feel comfortable using this little tip, I can just take, and what we're going to do is just tap it like the tip of it. See how I'm just picking up the smallest amount on the tip? And because when you're color correcting underneath your eyes, you want to be very precise. You just want to color correct where you need to. We don't need to swipe color corrector all underneath, just like we don't need to swipe brightener underneath. So I like to also take my finger to make sure that I am only getting it where I need it. And you can even tap off on your hand, or you can add a little bit of balm if you need to, if it's just a little too heavy for you, if you're, so just tapping it on underneath this eye where I need it. Okay, so that just helped a little bit right there. And that's what we need. We don't need a ton of it, only placing it where you need to color correct those areas. So if I had to a little bit underneath here, if I was much more brown, a lot more discoloration, I could take the tip of this and just very lightly, if I needed to, kind of add a bit more right in there, and just pressing and lightly tapping. Okay? All right. So let's go to the next area. So let's say you have a lot of redness around your nose, on the tip of your nose, on your cheeks, maybe even in your T-zone, down on your chin. So then what we're going to do is we're actually going to use this larger end, and we're going to do a little buffing first. So this is a great way to use this brush, especially when you don't have any other makeup on. You do have your contour here, so if you don't want to buff over where you already have makeup, but in this area here, and here, and here, I don't. So I'm going to take this end, the rounded end, and I'm going to tap into the color corrector shade, and I'm going to come in here on the side of my nose, tap tap on my nose is very red, the side of it's very red, and see how that just starts to, just a small amount. I'm not swiping, never swipe. We're always tapping. And let's say my cheeks were really red with rosacea or redness, and I was just really broken out today or something. So I would just take and just lightly kind of swirl that around. You can also just take it and tap, and just very lightly tap it on. But this brush here, since it's kind of domed, if you just take it and either press and tap it on, or just very lightly buff it to get in those areas. So down here on my chin, same thing. I can take a little, and I can either tap it here, or I can take a little, and I can just lightly, I'm just very lightly, little tiny circles. I'm not swiping, I'm just keeping it very light, and I'm just kind of working that over the area where I have a lot of purple or redness. So I have a lot on my nose, so I'm gonna just kind of, it's hard to do only one side of my nose. I'm red right here. So this would be areas where you need extra camouflaging or extra coverage. So it's either the small little circles of buffing or small, tiny little pressing motion. Okay. So next what we're going to do is if you have smaller areas that you need to color correct, like you did under your eye, you can do your finger, or you can also go back to using this. Again, just taking the pointy end and just tapping the tip of it in. And then here I can come and press it on my sunspot, or I could use my finger and then even press over the top with this. So since I have contour around here, I don't want to take and swipe anything, right? But I'm just going to get in here and start to work on color correcting, just pressing a little bit of that over that area. Oh, sorry, I got something in my eye. Okay. Ah, that's going to bother me. Oh no. Oh no, my eye. Once I get something in my eye, you know what happens. It'll start watering. Oh, and I'm live. Sorry. Okay. I'll try not to, I'm going to have to not touch my eye. Okay. Let me just hang on just a second. All right, we'll work with it, but that is what's happening. I have something in my eye and it's making it water. Okay, let's keep going though. I don't want to stop because we're going alive. Okay. All right, so that is how to concealer, color correct. Now we're going to talk about the main shade. So now that we have product on our face underneath, we have contour, we have color correcting colors here. When we're going to use the rounded end and we're going to tap into our main shade and we're going to apply that, not buffing, not swiping, but actually the stipple. Tap, tap, press, press. Tap, tap, press, press. So tap, tap, and then tap, tapping and pressing. Tap, tap. So now you're just going to apply this color where you normally would apply. You can even go over the top of the color correcting shade to even out your skin tone if you need to, but just be sure that when you're doing that, you're not swiping. You're tapping, tap, tap, and you're tapping to apply. I don't need to go over the contour so much, but just kind of go around it, tap, tap. So this is how we want to apply it. We don't ever want to swipe. When we have mature skin, you're just not going to get even coverage. It's going to be streaky, and it's not going to be even coverage. And when you're pressing and tapping it in, you're actually really making sure that it's getting and not settling into any fine lines or any textured areas, but you're really making it feel and look more skin-like when you are pressing that cream in. Okay? So there we go. That's how we're going to apply with our main shade. So let's move down now if we want to do a brightener. And the brightener would be what you might say is a concealer. We're going to use it to brighten though, not really conceal or hide any or change any color, but maybe to brighten areas that we need. So we can again use the small end of this, and you want to just take and use the tip of it. So maybe just take a little bit on the tip. And if you wanted to brighten down your nose, you can just kind of draw with the tip there, right? Use your finger to blend out the bridge of your nose. If you wanted to put some here to brighten this side of your face, you could take and just lightly, just take a tap, just lightly tap it, just a little, and then come over here and lightly start to tap and press it right on the inner part of your eye, side of your nose, and then continue to tap and press to blend that. And again, when we press cream makeup on mature skin, it avoids you getting it into any of your fine lines, and you just never ever want to swipe, and we always want to just tap. And then if I needed some under here, maybe I need a little brightening underneath my eye bag here just a bit. Okay, and then I can go tap, tap. Maybe I wanted to brighten a little bit up here. So you can see how subtle I am being with it. I'm not going swiping, and I'm not taking my finger and wiping a ton of makeup on. I'm just tap, tap. And let's say we want some brightener out here. This is also great, this end of the brush. If we needed to like clean up, we could take our brightener and we can actually clean up eyeshadow, like taking it and just lightly kind of swiping. That's the one time you could swipe, but you got to be careful. And then tap over. Okay, so this is kind of the brightener and how we can use it to apply. We can even put some above our lip here. You can just, again, if they're tiny areas, just do it with your finger and press it in. Sometimes we need to brighten along our jawline if our neck and our face aren't matching. Let's say our face is darker than our neck, so we can brighten a little bit to highlight here. So again, just take a little, tap, tap, and you can just tap right there and just continue to tap and press that in so that you're kind of transitioning to match your neck if it's lighter than your face, or opposite, you would not put it there if it was opposite so that it would match. But okay, so we're just kind of tapping. So that's how we're going to use it with our brightener. Let's use it now to do our blush. So a couple different ways. You can just use the round end. You can either tap dots of your blush on if you want to get nice placement, or you want to make sure you know exactly where it's going to go, and then you can pounce. Or you can just take the brush actually and just tap right into it, just pounce, pounce right in the center. And then I like to put my blush kind of on the outside of, using my eye as a reference above my contour, and I'll just take and start tapping. So tap, tap, and then continue to tap it. And I kind of just do these little tiny, kind of rotate my wrist so that it's kind of catching in with the contour a bit, and it's not just separate, because cream makeup doesn't need to stay separate. Cream makeup can blend together with the contour, but we don't want to swipe it on because we have makeup underneath, right? So swiping it on will remove and make all the makeup underneath look patchy and streaky if we were. So it's always important to tap it on. You can also do the finger, like I said, where you could just take and dot your color on, and then take your brush and then start to get it to move by pouncing over it, giving it some time to warm up on your skin underneath. The skin will warm it up, and then then it'll start to move and blend so much easier. Okay? All right. The other thing we can do really quick is you can use this end to do bronzer. Bronzer is right here, and you could do it a couple different ways. If you use your finger to tap your bronzer on, you're going to have to work really hard to blend it, or you'll have little dots on your face. You won't think you will, but if you're like me and need to wear your glasses and you don't really check it, you know, if you're going to dot it on, you really have to keep pressing, because look, you can still see dots. So you got to use the big end of the brush and then continue to press and stipple until you get that cream makeup to warm up. Or you could just take the tip, the round end of the brush, tap in, and then come in here and start pressing it where you want your bronzer to go. Okay? So even on your nose, underneath your neck. Okay. All right, so we can do all of that. We can also use this end to apply powder. So if we needed to set our eyelids, we could set our eyelids with this end. We would want to have a little towel. You can use your brush cleaner as well. So if you're going to switch to your powders and you have cream on it, then you would want to clean it off. You can also just kind of wipe off, if you need to, any cream that may be on the end of this brush. Because this is a much denser brush, it could hold, if you put too much makeup on, it could hold onto it. So I like to just kind of brush that off, or use a brush cleaner. The nice thing is when you use brush cleaner, you can use your brush right away, as long as you don't get it too wet. But I can take that brush and I can actually just press into the powder, just tap into it like that. And then I can come in and press it on my eyelids to set over my color corrector, so that when I go to put my eyeshadow on, my eyeshadow will go on so much better because I've prepped my eyelids. All right, 3D brush, that's how you can use it, okay? Let's do the next brush, because I don't want this to go too long, but I definitely want to cover 3 brushes. All right, anytime at all, remember that I'm live in the chat. I know I concentrate and I get kind of caught up in it, but that's why I'm going to record these all in one take as a live, and then I will be posting it so that I can then comment and reply to you in the chat live while you're watching it, okay? So the next brush we're going to do is the detail brush, my second favorite brush, actually probably my first and second. So this brush I love so much. If you don't have the detail brush and you only have the 3D brush, be sure that this one is second on your shopping list to get. So this is a medium to full coverage brush. It's also the contour brush. This end here is very dense, very fine, very densely packed bristles. It's so great for like pouncing on your contour, pressing on, your contour. So let me show you how to use this brush to contour with, to do your full face. We'll talk about it. If this is the only brush you have, you can do your full face with it, and that's what I wanted to show you. Smaller end is great for like all of the smaller detail areas that we need to do. So we'll show you that as well. All right, so let's start first with contour. So we're back inside our 3D palette, and we're back up into our contour shade, which is right here at the top. Now we're going to load it like I showed you before at an angle. Remember that your contour is always firmer. So you're going to come in at an angle. I'm going to do it like this so you can see it. So here, and I'm going to get just the color along this outer edge for contouring my cheekbones. Okay, we're going to start with that. So I'm kind of pressing that in, kind of stabbing it into the contour. So I just get it mostly right along this outer edge. And I'm going to turn it this way in my hand because I'm working on this side of my face. And again, we're going to feel where our cheekbones are. So my cheekbone is right here and it ends right there. Okay. So I'm going to take and I'm going to start at an angle where it's loaded. That's where I want to tap. So I'm tapping, kind of pressing that in up underneath my cheekbone there. Okay. So look at already how that applied so much darker of a contour because it's a much denser brush and it's made to contour like that. You can see how it just really helped pack that in. Okay, so we have it there. Then what we can do is the same thing. We're going to use this side, so flip over to this side of the brush where there isn't any makeup and take and flick that contour up to blend it a bit. So kind of just up. We don't want to blend too much. If you blend too much, you actually blend your contour completely off, but we definitely don't want harsh lines. So you can also just take and tap over it. But if you just do this little flicking where there isn't any makeup on the brush, that is a really great way. Okay, so there you go. I love that. That's a really good way. We can also use this end of the brush to contour our nose. I'm not very good at it, but again, if you load just this edge, I'll show you. If you come in and load that edge, just the edge again, so it's mostly along there, then you have to kind of turn your hand, but you can actually tap that right up against your nose, right? The arch, kind of, here's the bridge of the nose, and then where it starts to roll over. Can you see that color a little bit? And then you can take and again flick to the other side, and you can actually just kind of blend, flicking it down a little bit because we don't want it to be in the center. That's where we'll actually put our highlight. So you could do that. So let's go ahead and do our forehead. So for forehead, this is the perfect brush. It's almost exactly the width you want. You don't have to squeeze it. It's made to do that. You can just go straight in, just pounce again more firmly with your contour. Just pounce right in. We're never going to pounce that firmly into our creams, but in the contour you can. And then when I come up here, I'm just going to start pressing, and look again how much more pigment you're getting because this brush is made to apply contour. So it's much more dense, so I'm getting a much more defined contour. And again, I can then take and just kind of flick it down or just tap over and then flick it up into the hairline. So we don't want, I'm going to fix that side over there. So there we go. Okay. So jawline, I also think this is great and easy. It's just straight down. It's almost made to fit right along your jawline. So just go straight in again, load up that brush, and then come down here. And I like to start, back here behind my ear and just pressing it right along my jaw. So it's kind of hitting just the edge of the jaw, and then it's also applying it under, which is just so perfect. This brush is made. And then take and blend back behind your ear and blend it down. And then you can just kind of, if you got a little too high, we can fix that with our main shade or a brightener. Okay, so there we go. A bonus also is to do a double chin with this brush. I love it. You can take this brush and go straight down, load it up. And then I like to go about 2 fingers back, and then right here, wiggle, and you just kind of create this little shadow, and then take that brush and just blend that down a little bit. You still kind of want to leave it like a little shadow under there, so when it just kind of helps define underneath your chin and your jaw. So that is how we're going to contour with the detail brush, which I like to call it the contour brush because that's really what it's made to, this end is made to do. Okay, so then what we're going to do is now we can have a nice small end. That's why I love having this brush along with the 3D brush, is because this end is a little too big to do some of the smaller work, and so this is just the perfect size. So now let's do some color correcting. So with this size, I can actually take and tap in, and I can come in and flick this or tap or even swipe, because you know, on my eyelid, it depends on your texture, my color corrector all over my lid to color correct that brown and kind of mucky color. Some of us have really, you know, purple veins and blue veins popping through our eyelids, and we always want to color correct our eyelids before we put eyeshadow on, or our eyeshadow just won't look as well. It just isn't going to stand out as nice. So same thing, we can use the smaller brush to come in and do some detail correcting. Just take the tip of it and just tap just on the tip, and then you're going to look where you need it. I always need it right here on the inner. I also need it on the inner part here. I get a little purpley here. So here, take and tap, and out here. Again, you can always use your finger as well. If you need more precision, you can take and tap, and then just take this end of the brush and just very lightly kind of pull it across. And if you need it fully underneath, you need the whole area color corrected, then same thing, just lightly tap. And this is how little we're going to use. If we use too much color corrector underneath our eye and it looks really, really orange, don't worry, we're still going to go over the top with our main shade to kind of merge the two together with the rest of our skin tone, but we need that color corrector shade first on those areas. So I'm now just not really adding more, I'm just lightly tapping around that. There we go. Okay. So this is great if you have rosacea and redness all around your nose. You can use the smaller end. So tap, tap, and then come in here and we can do a little swirly buffing. This is the only time we can kind of do this swirling motion, is when we don't have any color underneath. So if you don't have any color in this area underneath, any makeup underneath, you can come in and just very lightly, these larger areas, let's say I was really, really red. I always am on my nose. And come in and I can just really swirl that around my nostril, on the tip of my nose, around here if I was red. Maybe I was really red up here, same thing. Down here on my chin, where it's purpley blue, and just take and kind of buff that over. And just kind of keep buffing that around. You don't want to buff it completely off. You do want it to cover. But remember, you can still go over the top of that, so we don't need a lot. We're still going to go over the top of that with our main shade. Okay, so it's a little bit of layering, but it's such a small amount. So anywhere else you need it, maybe some finer areas where you need to have some extra, maybe you have a sunspot or areas where you need a little extra, so you can take your finger to do that if they're tiny, and sometimes just tap it, and then you could just take the brush and just lightly kind of pounce over it. So kind of keeping it just to the area where you need it will make you happier with your color corrector. If you add it to areas where you don't need it and too much, yes, it will look not like your skin tone color, because it's not made to match your skin tone. It's made to color correct areas that are darker or red or purple or blue. So we need that. I hope that makes sense. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is our main shade. So this brush is a little bit trickier to apply your main shade with, but you can. It is a very dense brush like we talked about. I mean, it still can be kind of, you know, you can still kind of stipple with it and press with it. It's just not as nice as maybe this end of the 3D brush, or the end of the blush and bronzer brush, which we're going to use tomorrow, which is a little bit softer, but it doesn't hurt at all. It's still pretty soft. Oh, so take this and you're going to, again, go into your main shade and then just tap, tap, and then come up here and pounce and tap where you need your main shade. So tap, tap. So you're just going to go around your face and start doing the stippling and the tapping. So tap, tap. Again, if you have to go underneath your eyes a bit, you can, but can you see how little I'm using? Even on my eyelid, by my brow, wherever I need some coverage of my main shade. Tap, tap. Definitely along here, along my beard area and up towards my ear, and along my temple. Underneath my contour, I don't want to cover my contour. I just want to go around it, so you can see. And then I'm going to take and use that. Now, once it's on there, see that got kind of heavy. Now I need to work a little bit harder and keep pressing and tapping it to get it to move. So if you have makeup that's, you know, with one of these more denser brushes and all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's a lot right in that area, you got to just keep pressing. A little bit more work, a little bit more exercise for your wrist and your hand of just stippling and pressing without adding any more. So I'm not adding more, I'm just taking what's on my skin and using the cream, the brushes that are made to work with cream to kind of get them to press in and blend. Okay? All right, so you can see already this is a little heavier side than over here because this is a much denser brush than this was for applying the main shade. So you can see how the more dense the brush is, even if you'll use a small amount, you're going to get a little bit more full coverage. Okay. But you can always fix that by using a perfector sponge at the end, which I did prep my perfector sponges and I left them in the kitchen, but you can always use those at the end to press in and lift the makeup. Just tap and lift. If I have one here, I washed them all, so they're in the kitchen. Dang it. All right, let's keep going. We are going to keep going. So the next thing we're going to do is the brightener shade like we did over here. I do it very subtly, but wherever you need some light, you can use the small end of this brush and tap in, just tap, tap a little bit, and then come over here. And this fits real nice. You can come in along the side of your nose or this in part of your eye where it maybe just needs some light. It's a little dark, so tap, tap on the side of your nose, which already kind of enhances the shadow because it's our nose, you know, is adding a shadow. Add a little more to make those two match. Just kind of, I'm just tapping and pressing, and I'm using, you know, the warmth of my skin is warming up, and then I'm using the brushes to press and pull the color over. So I can add a little more, just a little tap. And if I want some underneath my eye bag here, just to add some brightness right along here, tap, tap. I can put some up here above my contour if you choose and you like to add some light. You can even put some up here if you like. I don't like to put it in my number 11s, but I may put just a little bit kind of around here, but I try not to get too much makeup in those because then I don't know. It's just, I don't want them to show any more than they are, but I can still add some light right in here. Can you see that by just kind of moving this? Okay, same thing, it can go down the strip of your nose. You would have to, you know, you could even pinch this to make it a little bit more of a narrow. You can tap it so it just picks up on the tip, so you can kind of draw with it finer, and then just tap or just kind of blend up here, here, and then we talked about here if you needed to do that as well. Okay, so those seeing how different the brushes are, what kind of coverage you get. All right, so now blush. I usually, with this brush, I always take my finger and I'll just tap where I want my blush to be placed, and then I can use this end and start again. Once it starts to warm up on my skin, just a second or two, but it's amazing how once your makeup starts to warm up on your skin, how much easier it blends. So you can't just do this and then stop. You got to kind of keep going. And then I can pull up, I can blend it down into here so you can see. And I want you to notice too that I did not clean this brush, and my makeup is not all muddled. My pink is not full of brown. My orange is not full of brown. Do you see that? They do not muddy because, and look at the difference. So this one here, I wanted to fix that one instinctively because this brush is more dense, so it really packed the color on. Then this brush, which is still a medium dense brush, but it's a little bit fluffier and softer, it gave me a little bit lighter of a blush. Okay, so that's really good. Same thing with the bronzer like we did. If we're going to add bronzer, you can try it. You could take the brush and tap into your bronzer and then come up here and start to tap. But look at how it laid down a pretty intense little spot, right? So I would really have to start, I don't want to swipe, I would have to really start to pounce that to get that to cover. But I can tap in and I can still do it, but it's going to put a lot down. And you see how the more dense a brush is, the more coverage you're going to get, and the more work for blending, which is no big deal. Sometimes we want all that coverage, but for blending, we just need to kind of keep pouncing that. Okay, so you can do the bronzer as well. Powder with this brush, I guess I could powder my eyelids with this tip if this was the only brush I had. I probably, again, would just take a little cloth and just brush off any excess, because I don't want to get that cream makeup into my powder, because this is a powder and this is not really a powder brush. This is a cream brush, but I can use it with powder. I'm just going to, again, take and I'm going to press it, tapping and pressing it in, and then come in here and press on my eyelids. And why am I doing that? Because I need to set my eyelids, because I put cream makeup up there. So as a primer, a color corrector. So now I want to prime them. I want to come in and set them with powder so that when I go to use my eyeshadows, which are powder, they will look beautiful and they will stand out and their colors will be true and all of that. So there we go. Okay, so far we've done the 3D brush, and this is a long video. We've done the detail brush. Last brush is the buff brush. This is such a unique brush. This is our most dense brush. This is our most full coverage brush. And if you're brand new to Seint, this is the first brush I got. It probably shouldn't have been. This brush picks up a lot of makeup because it's very dense. You can see how dense it is, how firm it is. They're kind of at an angle here. So even though this is called the buff brush, we're not going to use it like in a buffing motion. We're going to actually, this is more of a press and tap brush. This brush is wonderful once you get used to it. If you like full coverage, very full coverage, this is going to be your best friend. And so let me show you really quick how to use the buff brush. Again, never swipe with this brush. It's going to streak your cream makeup, and it's going to, if you have makeup underneath, like contour or color corrector, it's going to move that. So contouring with this brush, kind of the same concept. For the cheeks, I'm going to use the smaller end, and I'm going to come in at an angle, okay? So here it is like this, but I want to get the makeup, let's see if I can show you. I want to get my contour along this edge. So for cheeks. So I'm going to look at my brush and I'm going to come in and I'm going to load it, and I'm looking down into my contour and I'm just kind of rolling it and loading it so that it's picking it up mostly right along this edge the most. So then when I come in to contour over here, I'm going to, however you have to hold it, I'm going to start, even though we have makeup on, I'm just going to kind of do the same thing. I'm tapping it. I'm pressing and tapping it right along here where I have that color. And again, it does load a good amount. It's just trickier. It's just trickier to contour. So then after I did that, I can flip over to the bigger side of the brush, pretend like I don't have blush and other makeup on, and we'll just flick or press that contour up, okay? Up on our forehead, big, easy. Take the big end of the brush, press it into your contour, come up here and look at that. Look at how much, because it's more dense. Look at the amount that it lays down. Same thing underneath your jawline. You can just come in and just press, and then I'll just kind of flick it down and back. Okay? So the denseness of your brush determines really how much, how you apply it. We're going to press it on, but also how much makeup it puts on, a more full coverage. Okay, so I'm going a little bit faster. Main shade, same thing. You can use this bigger end of the brush and just tap, tap. Oh, sorry, wrong thing. We're going into color correcting. I almost forgot. So for color corrector, you can take the small end of the brush, just lightly tap into it, just pick up a little bit, and this fits real nicely right here on the inside of the eye and the inside of the nose, and presses it real nice down the side of your nose. So that's nice. So tap, tap. So if you want more of a vibrant brightener, you know, underneath your eye, you can do that. And I skipped I was talking about color correcting and I went right to brightening because I'm trying to go fast, but you can see how much that puts down. So the same thing is with the color corrector. If you went in to use the color corrector, you're going to have to use just the tip of it, be very careful, and come in. But I feel like with this kind of brush, I would color correct with my finger, except for larger areas around the nose, down on my chin. I can actually just use the flat end and press it on. Okay? Kind of press it where you need it. Okay? Main shade, then I've already done brightener and color corrector. We're kind of skipping around, but you're getting it here. The main shade, I can use the big end of the brush. Please never swipe. Please don't pounce hard. It's basically a little, that's it. This is so pigmented. Obviously, I have makeup underneath, but then when you go to use this brush, you're going to just tap. It's a pressing and a stippling motion, okay? And you have to do a little bit more work because it's not a nice, full, flat, or fluffy brush. It's a little bit more, you have to spend a little bit more time really pressing that in, okay? To make sure that you're getting that really pressed in to the skin, and anywhere where it got too heavy, you know, just kind of continue to press to move it around. And for cheeks, with this brush, I would probably do the same thing. I would take my finger, I would dot my blush where I wanted it, and then use the big end, again, start pressing. I always like to do this kind of little circular. I'm still pressing, I'm not really swirling it or rubbing, but I'm stippling, but I'm just kind of keeping it, I'm just moving it, just trying to get it to move where I want it. But you can see how this brush here, because it's angled like this, it's kind of pushing my blush up in this direction, kind of. So instead of where you have more of a rounded brush, it gives you more of a softer rounding. So you have to just kind of be aware of that. You can fix that by taking your perfector sponge and pressing around it when you were done, okay? And finally, powder, same thing. We could clean this end off if we wanted to, either with our brush cleaner. So take your brush cleaner, because this is a fuller brush. Take this end and swirl it. It cleans and sanitizes, and it gets all that color off. But it also, if I keep swirling it onto a dry microfiber cloth or even a paper towel or a washcloth, and just brush it off, then when I go to use it, it's dry enough, I can just use it right away. So now I can take this small end and just press into my powder and come in here and press. I can also use this end to, like, if I needed to set underneath my eye, because you were maybe a more full coverage, you can tap and set underneath your eye. If you need to set your T-zone, tap, kind of just tapping. You know, you can come in and press that powder if you needed to have more of a matte because of being more full coverage, but maybe you also have a little bit more oily combination skin, or you just like to set because you want a little bit more of a matte look in certain areas. And I wish I had my perfector sponge. I would show you how to fix that. But basically I would take it and I would just pull it down. But for right now, if I only had this, you know, I may have to just take my finger and just try to round out that little pointy spot up here. Okay, I think we got everything. Just really quick to go over again, we used the 3D brush, double-ended from Seint. These are all made to work with cream makeup. The detail brush, my second favorite brush. Sometimes it's my first favorite brush, but this is great for, we showed you how to use this. And then the last brush we just covered is a very unique brush. It's the most full coverage brush, the most dense brush. It's not a brush for beginners. I would say don't get this one if it's your first brush. I would say get the detail brush along with either the 3D brush, or we're going to cover this one tomorrow, which is the blush and bronzer brush. So these two are my favorite combination. This is my second favorite combination. This would be my third choice if I could only get one brush. And this would be a brush I might add on later, or I was more experienced with makeup and I love full coverage makeup and I want full coverage, then this would be your brush. Okay, so thank you so much. Remember that you can continue to comment on this live even afterwards. Just put the word replay and continue to ask questions and post questions because I will see them. Hopefully I answered a lot of your questions live when we were doing this in the chat. And now that I'm done with it and I'll save it as a replay, you can save it yourself. You can share it with some friends if you want to. You can continue to comment on it, and I will come back and answer your questions and help you with anything you need. If this cream makeup is new to you and you happen to come across this video about brushes, you can get a color match. Just comment match, M-A-T-C-H, and I will send out a free color match consultation form for you to fill out, and I will help you get your colors. I will also suggest your brushes depending on what your needs are. And tomorrow, part 2, we're going to be covering 3 more brushes. So make sure you come back for that, and we'll be sharing that. Thank you so much. My name's Karen. Karen Leon, and give me a follow wherever I am if this is something that was helpful to you and you'd like to see more. I would so appreciate it. All right, thanks so much. Bye-bye.